So along the lines of marketing, you absolutely have to have an idea of the group you're reaching out to first. And I want to start there with you guys. I'm about to put this on the screen here next to me, but in the meantime, I'm going to send out, I'm just going to hand you guys this. This is typical of a marketing plan. I think I sent you a soft copy of this. Hard copy. So you can make notes if needed. So I want to walk you through my thought process in finding the right market for me, the right audience, okay? And that's what any good marketing plan comes from. Giving you a couple different examples. If I don't have the language that resonates with my audience, it means I haven't identified them. And what I mean by that is this. You're going to find a lot of times now, there are those that have campaigns that go out or Facebook ads, or you'll see the bus bench. I still see that every now and again with someone that, a real estate agent that, you know, puts their advertisement on a bus bench or things like that. But within the language, you're going to see things like, or you're going to read, I would love to be your agent, give me a call. Or I've been in the business 20 plus years. I sure do care about your goals, your real estate goals. I hope you'll give me a call and give me a shot. This language, I'm just going to say it does not resonate with the general public, right? You're going to sound washed out between every other. Would you say right now as consumers, there's a lot of language out there to buy things that we see every day? Yes, all the time. That's what we encounter throughout the day. That's all it is. Like, you should buy this because of this. You should buy this because we do this. You should buy from us because we do this better than others. In fact, it's so much now that we're literally deaf and blind to a lot of that language out there. It literally just washes over us, right? And this is coming from the side of really just, it's almost as if I'm doing someone a favor and giving them my business. They aren't giving me a compelling reason to reach out to them, okay? And that compelling reason, it comes from those that identify within a group. So I'm going to take this both on a prospecting side and a marketing side, because I think within your prospecting plan and your marketing plan, you still have to identify the audience you want to work with, okay? So let's say I have the goal that I want to work with first-time sellers. In fact, on that marketing plan that year, that was one group I wanted to help out. I first looked at, for these sellers, what's going to be most important to them? What is it that they're going through that I can provide a solution or an opportunity that's going to resonate in a big way? For me at that time, we weren't even in the buyer's market we are in now, but it was, they have never sold a home before. They don't know what the process looks like. Second, they don't know what the transition looks like, because likely they're moving with a family or a partner, whoever it is, where there's more than one individual that's making a decision. There's a lot of unknowns. So for me, when I identified within my marketing plan, what I was doing of value for that specific segment, I said I specialize in simplifying the selling process and in creating a smooth transition to their new home. So it was important to me that I have language that resonates with that group. If I were even on a prospecting side, going to go into a neighborhood, let's say I was door knocking this neighborhood, and if I started with that same language, just anywhere, and I chose any neighborhood there was, just randomly going out, and I said, hey, I'm a real estate agent. I work in this area. I've been in the business. I truly want to help you out. What questions do you have around real estate? I'm likely going to get a lot of no's. But if I've identified my market with first-time sellers, I may then start to say, okay, I'm going to go in a starter home neighborhood. I'm going to go in a neighborhood where homes are priced between maybe 200 to 350,000. In addition to that, when I go through there, I'm going to identify neighborhoods where people will have a need to maybe move out or find a more conducive living situation. We've talked about in the past townhome communities, right? There's a reason we looked at those communities, because many of these individuals are either tired of paying an HOA, they're growing out of that home and they need something larger. They need not just a larger home in and of itself and more space, but maybe more space and actually have a yard. So when I go to these neighborhoods, and rather than saying, I'm a local agent, I'm here to help you if you have questions around real estate, I then come with the language and say, I'm a local real estate expert that specializes in helping people sell their first home and transitioning easily into their next property to create a better living situation for themselves and their families. Do you think that would resonate with someone a little bit more in that neighborhood? Mm-hmm. So that's really what I'm getting at in identifying your groups and then working out a plan on how to reach out to these groups and where to find them. Okay. A couple of things I wanted to share with you. It's not only about identifying groups that I want to work with, it's also identifying groups that are going to fit in line with my real estate goals. And what I mean by that is this. Hopefully you guys know I'm not saying never work with buyers that are purchasing a home for the first time when I continue with this, but if I develop a real estate plan around solely finding first-time buyers and working with those groups, we all know that I may not be able to move through more clients at a faster rate because of the landscape we find ourselves in now. Do you guys know what I mean by that? I mean, if I identify a group that I want to work with, yes, it's important you're passionate about helping these individuals and you identify with them. But at the same time, you absolutely must see within your own business plan if you can structure in a way to make that work. So does anyone have questions about this so far? Are you guys following me with the things I'm going through right now?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry,
Okay.
I always make that face. I feel like I'm in a conundrum of, I'm gonna stop drinking this, but I feel like I'm in the conundrum of wanting to adopt that philosophy with like, this is what I do, and then also just searching for like any new business, if that makes sense. Just because right now it feels like clients are what I want to know what the people are.
Yeah.
But it's like, but I see what you mean about making that your target market.
Yeah. So I have a question, and I'm glad you bring this up because I've had the same thought before. Correct me if I'm wrong, but maybe you're thinking along the lines of, if I choose this niche market, I'm shutting off all of these other individuals that I could be working with. Is that kind of where you're coming from? I'm just trying to see the concern around focusing on a specific group and not feeling like you're reaching out to everyone.
Or you don't know where to market because you want to find some business. Some business is better than none. So you're searching every different outlet.
Yeah.
Okay. So I've thought the same thing before. I think it's looking within our landscape and where we're located is going to help you a lot with this. And what I mean by that is, and this goes into, I'm glad you're talking about this segues perfectly into qualifying groups we work with. So you'll notice for me when I gave that example, first-time home sellers, it's a pretty large, vast group, right? It can fit into quite a few people. Other thing to look at is we benefit from maybe not living in, it's a tiny town, Nephi, Utah, where if I focus on a specific segment, even if it's a fairly broad segment, because I'm in such a small market overall, I'm really hurting my business, right? The benefit we have is we are located, I mean, being in Salt Lake County, unless you have the most specific group you're marketing to, you typically will have plenty of business to get. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And the other thing is, we have to be careful if we aren't like talking to those groups. Again, I won't penetrate a given market if my language is the same for everyone, because again, they don't feel like they're identified with. So things that I look at going into maybe first-time buyers is, one, what is the time commitment? So if within my plan, let's say my goal this year is I'm going to have 24 transactions. What is the time commitment for each individual buyer if I'm focusing on first-time buyers? A lot of times, even if I'm starting out in this business, I can have a pretty clear idea of how many homes we may have to look at. And again, how long the process is to get an offer accepted, right? The second thing with that is I may encounter, and this goes into identifying the group, I may encounter individuals that don't yet have the credit to purchase and are getting ready to purchase. So what is the time commitment to follow up with them and help them get ready, right? And that goes into, am I leveraging a lender that does that side for me and things like that. What are some other things you might want to consider if, say, we're focusing on working with first-time buyers, if this is a target group that I want to help? Like opportunities or maybe things that we need to look at closely. Sense of urgency.
For that,
Yeah,
are they casual about it, or do they want to get into it?
I love that. So just in case you guys didn't hear it, there's a sense of urgency behind it. So the groups I'm speaking with, do they have an immediate need to make a move? Is it need-based or want-based? You guys know the difference between that, right? I can't motivate someone for them to want to make a move if it's just not something they're ready for or willing to go through this market with. So again, and on top of that, you want to look at the profitability of groups. Look at how many transactions do I need to do with a purchase price of 300 to 400,000 on, say, a 2.5% commission to be able to get to my net income goals for the year. I'm not telling everyone you should do luxury, every single person in here based on that. But again, just take that into consideration as well. What is my time commitment? Is there a need that I can fulfill within this segment where I have extreme loyalty to what it is that I'm doing, right? How much would I earn typically on every transaction? And most importantly, is this a group I would enjoy working with, right? Sometimes 2 or 3 of those areas will carry through on the others and it makes it worthwhile. If I get so much out of helping first-time buyers get their first home, I'm willing to go through the time commitment. I'm willing to go through needing 2 to 3 additional transactions a year, perhaps, to reach my net income goals because I enjoy so much helping these individuals. So it needs to come from 2 sides. It comes from, 1, our own passion and groups that we resonate with and want to help and work inside of. And then 2, what is the opportunity on that side? I have to take both of those things into consideration, okay? So we're starting on the broad side and we're gonna start to get more specific here in a moment when we're identifying those groups. And I can't see around the corner in Zoom. Does anyone have any questions for me in regards to what we've shared so far?
No.
Okay. So going with identifying those groups, I'm going to go back to my marketing plan that I shared with you guys. And I'll read through it so you and Zoom can hear it. But so first I identified a group and I went through this same process. Is it someone that I can help out? Can it be profitable? Is it someone that I enjoy helping and I resonate with? And Dominique made this point earlier. Are they not so specific that I have maybe 10 people in all of Salt Lake County that are going to fit this description, right? So taking you through kind of this first group, I focused on first-time sellers because 1, I can help them sell their property and also help them purchase the next home. And I'm like from A to Z of the entire process, even the move. I don't help them with a single transaction. I help them with creating new opportunity in the new place they're living, right? So I went through the process. I identified what it is that I do to help them. And then I identified my group. And I didn't Google this. You don't have to do a ton of research. Really just sit down and say, if I were a first-time seller, what would I identify with? And I started with age, mid-20s, it's probably late 20s to mid-30s, maybe 1 to 3 children in the state we live in, outgrowing their property, increased focus on area schools, parks, neighborhood safety, traditionally not looking to do extensive renovations. They'd likely be looking for an easy and timely move to their new home. They may also have a higher debt to income ratio because being younger, their income may still be increasing at their job and they may still have school loans and other things to pay off. Also, being a millennial generation, I said they're looking to identify with the cause, and I can perhaps get involved with the cause while I'm branding myself to do some good there, but also build loyalty on that side, right? And then household income of 60 to 100,000. That's what I put down. And then based on that, I started thinking through, okay, where do I find these groups? Where do I go? What is their time frame like during the day? They don't have time for, if they're watching kids or feeding kids at night, like me coming by and visiting with them and cold calling or something like that. So where can I find these individuals where they're open to having a conversation, whereas chasing around kids or they have other things going on? So for me, I just started writing down locations, and I wrote down elementary and middle schools. Most parents in this age group will be in transition periods with maybe more on the way. I was looking online with Facebook posts and articles directed to those groups. So rather than just doing a Facebook ad around learn about like what homes are priced at in this market, they were more built around learn if it's the right time for you to sell your property or if you should wait to move into another home. And I had surveys, I had questionnaires that were posted, and it would start with that question, and it would say 10 simple questions to find out if now's the time you should have that conversation. People like quizzes. I learned this group, especially online, they appreciate the quizzes and surveys to see if it was the right time to do it. But it all came from identifying what type of ad is going to resonate with them, right? Going with that, I also posted articles around, I made sure there were articles that just weren't about Salt Lake is experiencing this right now. It's articles right around first-time sellers. What you absolutely need to do to prepare your home to put on the market. How can I pull top dollar or the most the market's willing to pay out of my property as opposed to another property just like mine down the street? So can you see where my thought process was? It was all around what is the value that this group needs rather than a general value that's going to fit everyone. Okay. Other things that I had done, well, I'll go through the elementary school and middle school thing in a moment. Looking for, this is when I was working luxury and around the first time sellers, but I was looking for groups that these individuals may be involved with. I know these individuals, first time sellers, if they have kids, don't have time for a lot of nonprofits and things like that. However, they may be very involved in their schools. So I'm gonna go back to this in a moment. Some of these things worked, some of them didn't. I even worked through, let's see, the mom or dad, when they have to do something and they may have some time, what moments are those? For me, it was they either go to the gym, they go to the grocery store, furniture stores that have to do with housing, things like that. And I was thinking, what can I do to show up in those locations so when they come through, I'm not expected to be seen there, but on top of that, I can provide something of value they can take advantage of while they're shopping or working out. And then door to door, I was focusing on geographically neighborhoods that would be first-time sellers. Again, the starter home pricing. So in neighborhoods, I made sure that it was somewhere I could door knock that weren't spaced apart too much. But we went through these neighborhoods and we shared with them what we do to specialize helping them move into their next property. We even had a campaign going out around townhome communities that you're currently living in your first investment property. We'd be happy to share with you how to make this an investment property. So we talked about a specific loan product where they could not list their home, but get an idea of what it would pull in for rents to be able to move that into pre-qualifying for another property. So along these lines, I'd like to hear from you guys. So I've kind of taken you through a group that I identified, but I'd like to work through this process with a couple of you. So I'd like to hear from you guys. What is a group specific to you that you would like to focus on, if you aren't already, to build your business? These are individuals you'd like to work with, and then there's also opportunity on your side. Work with more people. Have you guys thought through this?
Most of my people in my group that I have, that I know, is probably going to be your first-time sellers. Most of them are in their homes and stuff, but maybe upgrades. So that's most of my people that I know would be in that group.
So when you say upgrade, what type of upgrade are you?
So like a nicer home.
So just
so
nicer?
They
or
already got their first home, get their home, now they're ready to move up to their next.
Awesome. So in this market, I gave you an idea on my side, the first-time sellers in a different market. which was 2017, not too long ago, but a very different market. What do you think in this market would be a value add for those individuals?
What their home is worth.
Yeah, what their homes are worth.
So how much it's appreciated,
I was
maybe?
wondering about that is, it's like, what's it worth? Okay, so you get them to sell your home, but as the market is very slim, that's a scary thing for them too, because it's like, hey, I sell my home, but then where do I go?
Yeah. So let's take that a little bit further. They'd like to know what their home is. We've identified a potential problem. What's the solution to this? I'd like to hear from you guys. Let's put ourselves in that position. Like they come home every day and they're like, oh, I still haven't done the tile in our bathroom. Oh, I'm so tired of this. Like someone looking for an upgrade. You said nicer, right? Like, oh, like our neighbors' dogs just keep getting out and like going all over our yard. Or what are some other things they have to deal with on a daily basis? Like, man, I wish we had a larger kitchen. Our pantry is so small.
Room for their kids.
Yeah. Our kids we have 2 to 3 kids sharing a single room right now, right? They're so loud, right? So we're really putting ourselves in their position. So there's a need or a want, but what kind of value add do you think we can give when the next thought they have is, well, now it's just not the right time? I guess think.
I mean, the lease back option, obviously, like, is becoming more common now, because they're not the only ones having that thought, everyone else is too.
Yeah.
So that's obviously becoming more common. Also, a contingency, if they're really not ready, and just preparing their home to put it on the market, the second they do put it in offer. But I guess just making them feel comfortable and not making them feel like you're going to sell their home no matter what, you're going to guide them along the way.
So if I put it kind of in layman's terms for someone that doesn't understand the lease option and things like that, and again, this is from a marketing side to pull people in and start a conversation, find out how you can find your next dream home before being on the streets, right? Or let's find out what your home is worth, and then let me explain to you my process I use to get you into your next property without being in between. You know where I'm getting at with that, and we can make it like a little bit shorter and concise and to the point. But this would resonate with these groups in a big way. Do you know how many people are just waiting right now?
I was gonna say it does resonate because I mean every single person I've communicated with salary-wise is that same conversation. Well, how will you get this figured out? And from there, it's your goal to ask the right questions so they understand it for what it is, their objection, and then you bring your value proposition, such as stories of other clients that you have found rentals for, or such as stories of leaseback agreements. That's very common right now. So it's really just preparing and then explaining those things to them. Because that question you asked, it's tricky because every day it's changing. And so you really have to be adaptive to that almost every second of every day.
Are you hearing within, and hopefully you guys can hear this in Zoom, are you hearing within what Levi just said? Are you hearing a potential value proposition there? Like he just expressed a concern, a possible concern. Every day things are changing. I can build into that a value proposition if I'm truly doing it on my side, that every single day I'm reviewing interest rates. Every single day I'm looking at inventory. Every single day I work around other agents that are also proactively full-time working in this market, where we discuss opportunities before it even comes on market. You talked about a soundbite, which is amazing. Have sound bites around, you can even say just earlier today, I was speaking with another agent about a potential listing she has in Draper before it's even on the market, right? So sometimes we just go into things blind, which I had done for a very long time. Along the same lines, I almost had the desperation behind it where I have got to get as much business as I can right now. And I can tell you, I was going out every single day, networking, doing all these different things to start conversations, which is important. But I realized, one, I wasn't having conversations with the right people. And because of that, I wasn't having the right conversations. You guys know what I mean by that?
Right.
So what I'd like you to do is, I'm going to give you guys just a couple minutes. And I want you to go through this process just with one group. I want you to identify the group that you are or want to work with, and start going through those things. You can go through geographically, ages, needs, wants, whatever that might be, but I'd like you to start to write it down right now, what that group looks like. And then the very next part is you're going to identify where those groups are, like where you can establish communication with them and what the value is. Going back to my example, I'd shared marketing locations. Look at locations and what that language needs to be. Things are going to start to come to mind of where you can go to find them. So let's just take a couple minutes for that, and I want to hear from you guys ideas you have.
Is this for the question you're just asking now?
We're going to refer to it after. So.
You know, the funny thing is that office in there gets so hot. Yeah. I wonder if it's always the furnaces. Yeah. All the way.
So again, I know I gave like quite a bit of instruction on that, but to ensure that you guys know the bullet points, there's 3 things. Identify your group. What is their need? What is their overwhelming need or problem, opportunity, however you want to define that? Like you identify what it is that you do for that need. And then the third step is where do you find them? And what does that language need to be?
We'll call the HLA and see what we can do. But there's a printer here. There's no way about that. So, but like, using that space as the concern, it's fiery, it's
Okay, so let's, I know we took a couple minutes for that, but I want to hear from you guys. What's a group, a focal group for you guys that you'd like to market to and become more involved with? I think. There's like, let's identify the ideal client. Who's your ideal client?
It's an ideal client is like a really warm lead for me, but
we can go along those lines, but yeah, keep
I
going.
like this one a little more. So this is something that I really wanted to push on, but I know it's really tricky right now. So it's actually first-time home buyers in the young generation, because I know how hard it is. I've experienced it myself. So that is my group. And then from there, my where is actually social media. I feel like is a big place to find them because they're all on social media. And then young events such as like bars, like backpacking, group meetings and things like that. And then what do you do? I also have to be informed of such things as like house hacking. I actually just had a conversation with a young kid today from a lead, and he was kind of nervous because he wanted to find a rental around $900. And I was like, well, it's always nice to have a second, third opinion, what you can qualify for, and then from there you can actually house hack and you can rent out each room.
Mm-hmm.
So I was able to make a connection, have him reach out to Michelle through being informed about house hacking and how to myself.
Awesome. So I was going to ask that question. I'm glad you brought it up. What is the value proposition? What is it? I can show up where my audience is, but what is my language when I show up, right? And it starts with identifying. So what are some things going through? No, I went through it a little bit, but what do you believe are some things going through potential first-time home buyers' minds right now?
I think there's a lot. I think that one of the really big ones is how they compete with not as much credibility. I know that was something for us, but we went under contract in our home. And then I'm sure there are a ton of first-time home buyers as well as the young generation maybe that have bought a house before, but they just have so much fear because of the things they do.
Awesome. Good. Anyone else here in person or in Zoom? What's a group or an individual that you would like to work with, or you are?
I don't necessarily know if this goes more with the side of like, because you remember when we were talking about like finding other business owners and things like that to talk to and reach out to and network with. Like, I kind of realized that I really want to find other like female business owners in Utah and like network with them and like create a group around that or be part of one. And I thought that would be so cool, but I don't necessarily know if that is a target market, because obviously female business owners still have like families and houses, and so that could be like a potential thing, but I don't know if that's that makes sense.
It does. It totally does. And that most definitely can be a market that you work with in. So my first question is, why is that group in particular important to you? Or why does that appeal to you?
Because I just feel like I've actually heard so many stories of women working in male-dominated industries that have had a really hard time. And I identify with some parts of it, not all of it, but like, I just feel like it's a powerful story and it brings people together without them knowing each other. Like I've connected with people through that I haven't.
Awesome. Do you feel that other female business owners may feel the same way as you do?
Yeah, some of them.
Great. Another question is, if you were to identify even more so, like, are you talking small business owner, females that work in corporate, or women that work in, different sectors? Who are you thinking about if we get more specific around a female or woman business owner?
Yeah, I could maybe narrow it down more to like females who work in, like, I don't know, because I do think small businesses are the same. Like I just as much love to talk to like a female restaurant owner than like So I don't know, that's why I'm having trouble narrowing it.
I know, and this is, for me, it's really important that I always give you guys something every time we have these discussions, an action step or plan to move forward with, so you can take action, right? Rather than being even more in your head with like other things going on. When you can have a plan on paper, the reason I'm interested in this is, for me, a huge part of my business has been referral relationships that I have with others. There's two parts that I learned through it. One, you just have to start, because I learned that once I started working with other business owners, I learned that there were those that weren't a good match for me to do business with and refer business back and forth. So over time, I started to identify what is the group specifically that I'm looking for. And then it eventually came down to, one, they're a business owner that's been around for, around 1 to 3 years. So they've kind of like made it through those first few months when most people get out of business and it doesn't stay afloat, right? The next thing I identified was, do we work with similar clientele? My clients, do they match a lot of their clients? If I truly want to be on a referral partnership, that makes it a lot easier to refer business, right? So I started to focus on, and I wrote this down, but I started to focus on things like how much business do they do? What is their clientele? Also, let's see, what are their business partners that's referring them business? And exactly how do I provide something of value? For me, I started joining, and I mentioned this last time, like more networking or referral networks. Like I mentioned before, the BNI group, Business Networking International. I looked to visit those groups to see which ones I liked. These are all business owners. On top of that, I started to share what was important to me or what I was looking for in a business partner. So I would say, these are my type of clients or the individuals that I work with. I need someone that I feel fully confident in, that are going to take good care of the people I work with that I care about. So when I started having that language, people started to refer me, friends and family would refer me other individuals that match that description. The hard part is, if I don't have enough of a specific description, people don't know how to refer me business sometimes. Yeah. And it's just because the way we think, if someone says something super general, can I help you with something? They'll say no. If I get more specific and say, can I help you or a family member move into a better living situation? They may still say no. Can I help you or someone else that's been kind of upside down on their mortgage, that's worried about what's going to happen through COVID, that wants to have an anonymous conversation around opportunities to have a lesser mortgage payment and to capitalize on what their home is worth? And the mind, it can't help but start to compartmentalize these things, and then someone is going to come to the forefront of their mind. That's actually what they train in different groups, networking groups, that your elevator speech, it needs to have not just something that I'm just looking for business. This week, these are the type of clients I'm looking for. And when you do that, you're making it that much easier for other individuals to refer you business. So for me, it transitioned from, I'm just looking for anyone that will refer me business. It transitioned from that to, who can I refer business to quite often that I also know is going to be bought into the way that I do business, and refer at least 1 to 2 pieces of business a year. And then the third level is, how am I tracking that? Am I tracking how many pieces of business they're referring to me, to see where there are commonalities in my best business partners, right? For me, I started like happy hours just based on the groups I wanted to work with. And I was looking at complementary businesses. So if it was, maybe, let's see, just to give you an example, it could be like a plumber and HVAC businesses. So I created a happy hour, and I invited as many people as possible that had a plumbing business and an HVAC business, to see if we could spread business and help one another, because they're conducive to one another, right? On wealth, I have like a wealth management side and an accounting side, because typically someone with an accountant eventually needs a wealth manager over time. I also had like restaurants, like local restaurant businesses where they could show up, and then we would have, what's the word? Like suppliers. So we had suppliers show up to create connections. And for me, when it came to my business partners, I then developed the mission statement or my vision to say, I am the individual to make connections to more business. So I started doing lunches, and it would be 3+ people. I would start to have that language to reach out to 2 people I already do business with. Because I'm tracking the business I'm getting, I would say, hey, I don't know if this individual in that segment is going to continue to be my business partner. I've referred them all this business. I haven't seen anything back this year. Who do you guys know that fits a description to work with me? I also was able to start making phone calls. I, for 1 week, would call like divorce attorneys. Like on one day, I would call like estate attorneys another day. And I would reach out, and I said, because I already knew the clientele that I have and what I was looking for, rather than, hey, I wanted to find out if at some time you'd be open to working with a real estate agent. And that language changed to, hey, I'm a local real estate agent, and I'd like to have a divorce attorney that I can refer people to that I have confidence in that'll take great care of them. I work with people through life changes, and I've developed these relationships. Is there a time that we can meet and I can ask you a few questions about your business? Do you think that sounded different with them when I was qualifying them over the phone? Yeah. So I hope this is just getting your mind along the side of, who am I working with? Where do I find them? What does the language need to be? And what are my specific actions I'm taking week after week to create opportunity? I will tell you, from a marketing side, if you do it the right way, it doesn't have to cost you a lot of money. You don't have to pay someone, a marketer, to show you these graphs and say, over time, you're going to see your business quadruple in a year and make claims like that. You can most definitely choose activities, if you've identified your market, to reach them like no one else has.
Because like Levi was saying, I've been trying to leverage social media, but like with all of my ideas, I don't know where to start. But I think that that's a really strong point. Like, find female business owners, but find ones with similar clientele, and then start referral business from that instead of like.
If you're specific about your groups, your language becomes more specific. If you're not specific about the group, your language is generalized and you don't have a lot of feedback. A couple last things in the communication when we are marketing. There's 3 absolutely important steps to, if you're doing posts, to if you're reaching out to someone for the first time. You have to go through these steps. And if you don't, you're going to start to find that you're not going to get a lot of headway with these groups, and you won't have people reaching out to you. First, you absolutely have to have a story or a soundbite or a statistic. I want to ask you guys that are in here, with Dominique sharing why it's important to work with female women business owners, do you think that would resonate with her groups when she was sharing that?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah.
I think it already almost does in itself, especially in this time.
Yeah. So looking at the market and looking at your group, share your story. This is why I'm reaching out. Whenever I reached out to nonprofits, charitable organizations, I always said first, I'm reaching out to you because I read this about you. This is why it resonated with me. Then I go into the presentation, right, or the solution. So the first part is, what is your story? What are you saying first? What is it about you that's going to pull people in and create engagement and make them want to listen? The second portion is, what is the reason or the presentation, or what is it that you're putting out there for people, right? So within those conversations, when I identify groups that I want to work with, say around nonprofits and things like that, I shared with them my story. This is why your work resonates with me. Then I went into, what does involvement look like for you? I'd like to help bring more exposure to your cause.
Can I add something to that?
Yeah.
So I think something, Dominique, that could help with you or anybody else that really wants to do this is, all you have to do is find one person. So now everyone is going to differ, right? But you need to find that one person, and you can almost treat it like a situation where you're kind of spying on the situation as a whole. and learn how to go about it. So ask one person, do you feel like, that strong women need to be with other strong women? And then you're going to have one person who will reach out and explain to you, yeah, like I want to know other strong women so we can, better each other, however it is. You'll understand it a lot better for yourself. But and then from there, challenge it, ask questions, see where you can differ, where for her it means a lot more. And then from there, you can expand even more. It doesn't necessarily, you need to think about it so heavy. It can be more so just the 20% that matters the most, right? So you can learn exactly where you need to go about it from that one person, and then from there expand, and then you'll learn more. Does that make sense? Sorry, I'm kind of.
Are you talking about kind of doing like the research on one person and learning more about it before you reach out to larger segments?
Well, you can reach out to larger segments. I agree, because either way you'll find that one person, but it will help you also, because in your voice you kind of have that, well, I don't necessarily know where to kind of like search for it. But if you even just reach out to just your SOI alone, I'm sure you can find one person that you can really challenge that and expand from it. Not that you can't expand to everyone.
Yeah.
So let's ask another question. Where are women business owners that you want to help build up? So where do they, if I put myself in that situation, where do I find them? What are they involved in?
And things like networking groups would be one.
Mm-hmm.
Social media would be another.
Mm-hmm.
Because they're all advertising themselves too.
Yeah. So you're thinking along the right lines. I would immediately Google different organizations. Like Google is the best tool that we'll have to find those groups. So Utah there's a Women's Business Owner Association I know is there. I don't know if you've seen it, but you can definitely join that. As you reach out, the individuals that I like to talk to the most are the president of the organization, VP, membership. Reach out and say, this is what I'm about. And I did this so often in the past. And say, what do you do for events? What do things look like around COVID right now? How can I get involved? What does that look like? The benefit to that is once they have an event, you have a face with a name, you introduce yourself and they introduce you to other people. I would focus on at least like 2 groups a week that you reach out to and make it measurable. The second thing on the social media side is share your story, what you said. This is something that's been going through my mind for some time. Be to the point, don't make it a super long like bio, type thing, but then get into, I've been wanting to get more involved and support other women's organizations and business owners much more. Who do you think I should meet? And how do you think I should go about doing it? Or even if you have a plan, say, I want to do it this way. What are your guys' thoughts around that? Okay. So, but it all starts with what that group is. Okay. The third part to every post or when we're reaching out to these groups is you'll remember I said first the story or the statistic, what it is to pull people's engagement in to learn about me. Doesn't have to be super long, but just share an experience or an emotion around it or something so they know this is important to you. Next, you get to the purpose or the reason, right? What does involvement look like in your organization? And then lastly, you have to have a call to action every time. So when I'm reaching out to my groups that I've identified, I then say, in that group, it can say, if I'm reaching out to an organization, I'd like to invite you, or can I be invited to come to your next event or your next planning session, committee planning event to meet you guys. Or if I'm forming my own organization or reaching out to my groups, asking them a question, reach out to me today and I'll explain what my process is around, we talked about first-time sellers, around helping you find the right property before your home sells. Right. But I hope if you remember anything from what we're talking about, you absolutely must identify your groups that you're working with. And I recommend 2, no more than 3 groups you work with that year. For me, it was also empty nesters. So I started joining chambers of commerce, things like that for those that may have their own business. However, they have free time to be able to do things, right? and then figure out what you can do to provide value. I'll also say this in closing, it's not always around real estate that we're creating value and building relationships. One experience for me that I learned is I thought when I was working around luxury, I got to the point, I think I shared with a lot of you guys, I got tired of defending my commission. And I said, this is not a segment for me any longer, right? I'm tired of going through, it was just for me personally, telling them I deserve 3% because I do this, this, and this. And this was a segment that I felt I just wasn't getting anywhere with at times. So when I focused on luxury, I said, okay, so they have free time to be able to give back, join nonprofits, charitable organizations, what's important to them. So I started joining these organizations. As I got more involved, because I cared about something important to them, they wanted to support me regardless of what I did. When I'd shown up to a couple of these board meetings, like I remember the first time I'd shown up to one of them just to hear where I can help and make connections and say, well, I'm more than willing to do this to help you guys out. By the end of that meeting, one person said, we need this like huge commercial space. We're expanding into this other arena. Another individual said, my son, I'm helping them buy a home. Can you help them too? And it's because I was giving back to something that they cared about. When it came to working with first-time sellers, I was looking geographically at specific areas where I'd be able to help people. So around those areas, I was getting involved with the rec center. I remember in Cottonwood Heights, I got involved with the Cottonwood Heights Rec Center. And I said, how can I bring more exposure to this and also let my entire database or my friends and family know about this? Can we do some promotions around it? And they allowed me to have a table in front on Saturdays where people walked in every single Saturday. And I had this ridiculous prize wheel. People would spin for a prize, the kids. And then I would have excellent conversations with people. I started within those same areas, get involved with high schools. And I found out, I think I shared this with you guys, at one high school, I just brought my truck and behind it my trailer with a grill, and I started giving away hot dogs at football games. Another one around elementary schools, we did this big contest or raffle where kids would get a ticket for having improved attendance. And because it was something the teachers and the principal were behind, they were driving this thing like crazy. And all I did was I got a bike at Walmart, and at an event once a year, I would have this bike and we would raffle off whatever kid had the best attendance or most approved attendance from this ticket bowl. And everyone would be there cheering us on. And I was helping out with something more than just, I just want to sell you real estate. It was providing value outside of it and building community. But I can tell you it all started with, what group do I want to work with? How do I reach them? What's important to them? And what does my language need to be? Okay. Is this helpful today, guys? I hope.
Yeah.
Please look at it from a side of, what is my plan going forward and how am I reaching out to my group? So the challenge I'm going to issue to you guys. So I'm issuing a challenge, the 3-step process. I would like you guys by the end of the week to email me 2 groups that you've identified that you want to start working with, okay? Women business owners is an excellent group. First-time home sellers, great group. Even if you say this group within Holiday, I want to focus on everyone in Holiday, that is a group. And again, the more specific we get, we can form an action plan. And I would like you to start to put together your own marketing plan. Where do I find them? What's important to them? And what is my mission statement this year when it comes to those groups I want to help? If you do this and if you're consistent about it, usually it takes 2 to 3 months when it's referral type business or people see something and then they reach out to you. But if you do it consistently, this is going to feed your business for a very long time. And it's also based on relationships, which is really fun. Okay, so does anyone have any questions or anything based on what we've talked about or anything at all? You can close it. Okay, anyone in Zoom? You guys good? All right.
We are good.
Okay, cool.
Good to go.
Okay, the 1 o'clock Monday So, all right, guys, thanks for joining today. I'd like to see that on Friday. And once I see that, I'll give you feedback on how to reach those groups as well. Okay. Okay. Thank you.